Generating traffic and sales can be a challenge for online merchants. But selling on the Walmart Marketplace puts your products in front of millions of customers who shop on Walmart.com. And right now, sellers who join Walmart Marketplace can save up to 50% on referral and fulfillment fees for the first 90 days. So get started today. Head over to marketplace.walmart.com/savings. That's marketplace.walmart.com/savings.
Welcome to E-Commerce Conversations, a weekly podcast focusing on e-commerce topics featuring interviews with prominent people in the e-commerce space.
This is E-Commerce Conversations by Practical E-Commerce. I'm Kerry Murdoch. There is no bigger name in the credit card business than Visa, and there are no bigger names in the payment gateway business than Cybersource and its subsidiary, Authorize.net. Later this year, all of those companies will likely be combined, as Visa and Cybersource announced recently that Visa intends to purchase that company. To explain the transaction and its impact on e-commerce merchants, we are joined by Michael Walsh, President and CEO of Cybersource, and John Bodine, its Vice President of Small Business Sales. Well, Mike, thank you for your time today.
Thank you.
Mike, why did Visa buy Cybersource?
Well, this deal is about driving growth in e-commerce and delivering value to merchants and financial institutions in the e-commerce ecosystem. So we're excited because, by joining forces with the largest payment brand in the world, we'll be able to deliver more innovation to the e-commerce marketplace than we have ever before.
The press release that was issued a couple of days ago by both companies, it alluded to Visa's financial strength as a factor in accelerating the growth of Cybersource and of your Authorize.net division. How do you see that happening? What investments do you see Visa making to accelerate Cybersource's growth?
Well, I think the investments are really going to align to the Cybersource strategy, with perhaps one or two additions. And really that strategy is around a few key areas. Global expansion, so expanding the e-commerce marketplace globally, enhancing fraud capabilities, and we feel like the combination is going to provide a lot of opportunities to continue to innovate in the area of fraud management, and then payment data security, which is an area of focus for Cybersource, and we believe this combination will allow us to innovate in that area in some significant ways. One possible addition that Joe Saunders has talked about is innovating around the mobile payment space, and we're looking at opportunities there as well.
You mentioned global expansion there, Mike. It's my understanding that certain countries around the world, developed countries, credit card penetration or the use of credit cards is not as widespread as it is here. So is the global expansion that you're referring to, is it penetrating the use of credit card use in those countries, or is it providing a platform to accommodate the payment system that they're used to? Or both?
Yeah, I think it's going to be both, to your point. Both Visa and Cybersource believe that as a result of this combination, we will be able to achieve a better performing Visa transaction, again, through some of the innovation that we talked about a minute ago. But also, to the point you made, it is true that in certain geographies around the world, non-credit card payment methods are the preferred methods, and Cybersource does offer an open platform that supports all of the appropriate payment methods in the geographies that we serve. So Visa understands that, and they see value in that. So we believe that we'll continue to innovate in both Visa credit card transactions, debit card transactions, prepaid transactions, but also non-credit payment instruments as well.
You mentioned also, Mike, mobile. If I could follow up on what you said just a minute ago, mobile may be an expansion. Could you talk about what's on your mind there with mobile?
Sure. Today Cybersource does not have a proprietary mobile payments offering, but as we just talked about, we are a platform that supports multiple payment types, and the platform is built in such a way that adding new mobile capabilities would be fairly seamless. So it's a little early to get into too much detail there, as we're just sort of starting these discussions with Visa. But again, we think that adding the platform to what they're thinking about in the area of mobile presents a pretty significant opportunity.
Michael, let me change directions on you briefly and address PCI compliance. There is a school of thought that we've heard here that says something like this: many small merchants will be unable to meet PCI compliance with the current setup. And for those with their current setup, with their current shopping cart setup or website setup, and it's best for them to move to a hosted payment solution so that when customers are on their cart providing a credit card, that credit card never touches the merchant's software or never touches the merchant's hosting account. Does Cybersource or Visa have plans for a hosted payment solution like that?
Well, in fact, we actually offer that service today. So Cybersource has had a hosted payment page offering or suite of offerings around hosted payment acceptance for several years. And so we do believe that there are going to be opportunities to enhance those capabilities as a result of this combination. And I think the point you make about smaller merchants having difficulty maintaining PCI compliance is a valid point, and we think that our offerings give them the ability to do that in a cost-effective way, and we'll continue to focus on that as a result of this combination.
What is that hosted payment solution called?
Well, there's a few different names for it. We've got a hosted payment acceptance suite of products and services. So there's a hosted order page, and there's, not to get too technical here, but there's something called a silent order post. But that essentially allows a merchant to maintain the page itself, but the data fields themselves are actually hosted. So the page is within the merchant environment, but the data fields that contain payment data are actually in our environment. So it really gives them more flexibility around an integrated user experience or customer experience on their website.
Mike, many of our listeners and readers here at Practical E-Commerce, most of them, in fact, are smaller merchants, and they're authorized.net customers, to be specific. Many of them are. How will this transaction affect those merchants that work with authorized.net presently?
Yeah, I'm going to let John Bodine, who manages our small business segment, address that. John?
Yeah, thanks, Mike. No, I think it's a great question. It's one of the strengths we see between our relationship with Practical E-Commerce and then our merchant base that are using authorized.net. But in the short term, nothing changes. I think merchants will continue to experience kind of the same reliable service and customer support and innovative product offerings that they come to expect from authorized.net and Cybersource over the years. Over time, I think as Mike has talked about, there are definitely opportunities to expand the solution set that we offer not only to merchants but to consumers, our resellers, and our integration partners, kind of thanks to this new relationship between Cybersource and Visa. And that's things like global payment processing that Mike talked about, increased fraud tools, maybe tax solutions. We're bringing a lot of the tools from the Cybersource enterprise platform over to the small business or authorized.net merchant base. And from Visa, we'll add things like Visa Debit, the prepaid and credit products, support for their right-click solution, which allows better consumer storage and checkout functionality, more PCI compliance solutions that you were just asking about there. So I think bringing the two companies together in the short term, merchants won't see anything out of the ordinary. They'll continue to experience the same solutions and tools and reliability that they have today. And in the future, over time, they're going to see a lot more coming from Visa and Cybersource directly.
Okay. Mike, one question that has been raised, goes something like this with the transaction. What does the transaction do to Visa's relationship with other gateways? Every gateway deals with Visa in some capacity. And conversely, what does the transaction do to Cybersource's relationship with other issuers, such as MasterCard?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so both companies are aligned around the fact that the openness of the Cybersource platform has been a key to our success, and we're committed to maintaining that approach. So, again, you've got to offer what the merchants need, and the merchants need the capability to offer multiple payment types. And so that won't change. And as it relates to Visa working with other gateways, there are no expected changes there either. So this really is about just adding e-commerce capabilities to the Visa brand and catalyzing growth in the e-commerce segment.
When the transaction closes, Visa will be both an issuer and a gateway. Authorize.net's business, this may be a question for John, Authorize.net's business, as we understand it, has been built on the reseller network. Does Visa or Cybersource have plans to get into the reseller or merchant account business when the transaction closes?
Well, let me just address that, and then maybe John can add some additional color. Visa doesn't issue credit cards. Their client banks do. And, again, this deal is about driving e-commerce growth and delivering value to both merchants as well as financial institutions. So, the plan here is to align our priorities to serve those two objectives of driving value to merchants and financial institutions. I don't know, John, if you want to comment more specifically on the small business aspect of that.
I think, Kerry, something you mentioned, about AuthorizeNet being heavily reliant on the channel is very important to address because one of our biggest strengths and our business and then one of the key growth factors is definitely our reseller channel, and that's, been from day one. And I agree with Mike. This only strengthens those relationships. There's nothing in Visa's plans to hinder or halt or to stem the strength of those relationships. I mean, our partners, the average length of reseller agreement with AuthorizeNet is over 9 years now. So, while the industry has changed and players come and go, we've shown over time that we can continue to, provide the value and the products and solutions that resellers are looking for as they go out and competitively sell in, a very competitive industry, to merchants who are looking for good and solid e-commerce solutions. So, Visa understands that. It's been a strength of the business, from its get-go, and will continue to be going forward.
Mike, we have just a minute or two here left. Anything else on your mind today for our listeners who are, again, mainly smaller online merchants? Anything you want to say to them?
Well, I would just reiterate that they shouldn't expect any change in strategy from Cybersource and the Authorize.net brands. We believe that this will only enhance our ability to continue to deliver value faster. We'll have more resources available to us as part of Visa. We'll be able to leverage the global network that Visa has built over the last several years. So this will be a positive for our end merchants as well as our partner ecosystem of resellers and affiliates. So we're very excited about it.
Well, for purposes of our listeners, again, Mike's company is Cybersource. Of course, that site is cybersource.com. We've also been visiting with John Bodine. John is with Authorize.net. And Michael Walsh, the president and CEO of Cybersource. We want to thank you for your time today, sir.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
That's all the time we have for this week's e-commerce conversation. I hope you enjoyed it. Please tune in next week for another new episode.